here's the thing.
Listen,
Sometimes,
we get stuff wrong.
we make a list and we're maybe a little bit wrong about certain things, hadn't played certain things, and we got to do a revision list, which we do at the end of the year. Let's talk about the best games of 2022
again.
What's up, everybody? My name is Nick.
I'm Mike.
We are the Brothers Murph. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And
Hit that
we're going to be
button.
talking about our top 10 games from 2022. So we started doing this, I don't know if last year was the first year we did this, but
I think we've done it 2 years now. This is maybe the third year. Anyway.
But basically, at the end of the year, we always do our top 10 games of the year. Make sure to check out that video if you haven't already.
Somewhere up there.
But we haven't played everything from the year before. Sometimes we maybe haven't played that game enough. And so we like to do kind of a revision of the last year's list the next year to basically say like Arc Nova, for example, we didn't play until like the next year. There are certain things, like I'll say right now, there's a couple games on here that we didn't play until this year.
Right.
So they weren't on last year's list. So it's kind of a good way to look back. And then now we do them every 5 years. We look back 5 years and say how well we like stuff. So it's been fun to do these kind of revisionist ones.
Absolutely. It's also a good chance to see like what games held up, which games stand the test of time, because as you see with, especially with content creators, we're talking about the newest games most of the time. So it's nice to see like, does this game hold up past its initial like 1 month of like coverage? And you'll see a number of games here that are still on our best of the year list redux.
That's it. So let's go ahead and get into number 10. Number 10 is going to be Long Shot the Dice Game. This is, again, one I think it came out on our top 10 games that surprised us list, because I was not expecting much from Long Shot the Dice Game. We actually played this one originally, like way back in like 2021 even.
We played this pre-2022, which again, given the work we do often play games kind of almost a year at times ahead of when they come out. So this was, it's a roll and write game where you are betting on and influencing to some degree a horse race.
Yes.
And you want to have the most money at the end of the game to win. I think what's really fun for us is like, it's dead simple in terms of like, you're rolling 2 dice. One's going to select a horse of the 8 horses in the race, and the other one to determine how far they move forward. They're doing 1 lap around the race.
That's it.
And then based on the kind of horse that rolls, you'll be able to place a bet on that horse, or put a jersey or helmet on that jockey, or that number will allow you to cross off these little rows and columns section for the concession stand to ultimately unlock things, get more money, place free bets, and you can actually put on the horse, whatever horse rolls. There could be 1 or more other horses that get 1 single space bump, and you can actually influence when you put those jerseys on and add X's to other horses so that they're more likely to roll. Because if I put a bunch of money on 7, I need to make sure 7's going to kind of be hitting more often. So you can influence a race in that way. But it's just really easy, quick turns. And I just enjoy the kind of hedging your bets aspect.
And you're rolling a die, you're rolling a D8 for what horse moves. But again, you can kind of manipulate it like Mikey said, but it just, for some reason, the game always ends up being close in terms of the horse race.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times, like horse number 3 is flying out the gate, just absolutely flying. And then they just
money
stop.
down. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, horse 8 starts coming up and stuff. And it's just like every single time, it becomes like a photo finish almost every single time in terms of like which horse wins the race. It's just really, really fun. But outside of that, it's a pretty simple roll and write that just works really well. It's cool. It's got a good look. It's a nice small package. The component quality is great. It's just really, really fun. It's just straight up fun.
Yeah, I agree. And I just enjoy the fact that like certain horses have better odds. The 1s and 2s have better odds than the 7s and 8s of winning the race. But if you do enough things to mitigate and manage stuff, and if that 8 just rolls a bunch for some reason, and you bet on them, the payouts are way larger. So I love going for like the dark horse. You know, you're like, I'm going to make this thing happen. It's
great.
It always ends up super exciting. That is Long Shot the Dice Game. Truly one of the most pleasant surprises in a board game we have ever experienced. It plays 1 to 8 player, and honestly, it's great at all those player counts.
Really is.
So check that one out. That's Long Shot the Dice Game.
Number 9, shout out to Crook, our good friend
Shouts
Crook.
out.
Got us, or I guess lent us his copy of this, and this is Space Station Phoenix. A game that I hadn't even heard of until he was like, hey, I've heard good things about this game. I bought it. I'm going to lend it to you guys so you guys can play it. Tell me if it's good.
If I'm honest, I looked at the cover. I said, like,
it looks very generic.
Hard pass.
It looks very like spacey, and it is.
It is generic spacey
You are
stuff.
building out a space station. It is a very generic space theme. But man, is it really, really good.
It's so good. Yes, it is a game where you are ultimately building out a space station for yourself. and taking actions, and the actions are ships that you have, and you can actually take actions of your opponents as well, but you have to pay them a little something, some of them gems.
A little bit of gems.
And you're doing, I think there's like 4 main action types. There's like kind of doing trips down to Earth to collect resources. You can disassemble your ships to get metal. Metal is your main kind of most valuable resource because that goes into building sections of your space station.
Like modules.
Which is going to give you a huge hit of points. But the main thing that's super cool is as you build this space station, even starting from your central hub, which you begin the game with, you will build into really specific asymmetry.
Yes.
Each kind of wing of your space station that you build will give you bonuses potentially, end game scoring things to go for, certain income things that you do when you do your income turns, and how you build out that space station will make you vastly different in your abilities and dictate kind of the strategy you should go for, which will be very different from your opponents. And that I think is super cool, where the asymmetry happens throughout the game. Yeah. There's like games where you have a different faction than you. We start off the game and I have this ability, you have that ability, and that's totally cool. Love that as well. But the fact that you can build into a specific, or you build a, have a specific build, I should say, throughout the game is really fun.
Yeah, because you start off with like a hub, and your hub has a special ability,
a little something, and an end game scoring thing.
And then as you build, it gets more and more different. And on top of that, there's like, I think like 24 different hubs in the game. Yeah. And I think the game plays to like 5. So you're never playing with, so you like, the games are wildly different. And then there's all these modules, again, that you build out, like Mikey said, that might have like unlockables, income, certain things on them. And there's like 10 of each of those. And you only are each going to build one of them. It's like, it's wild. The amount of variability in the game is so insane. Cool. And it's just super fun. And you have these ships, and you can get better ships. Actually, I guess you don't get ships, but you like disassemble some ships, which means you have less actions, but that's one of the ways you get metal. But you're kind of leaving behind your really good actions. But as Mikey said, you can use other people's ships. You have this diplomacy track, which basically means that like, if you're the highest on this track, anytime anyone does like the disassemble action, you're going to get a little bump from it. There's all these different avenues for it. And on top of that, you're also getting these aliens. It's a very friendly game too.
Yeah, you're building essentially housing for these different alien races and humans as well.
And then as you put those in there, again, that's how you unlock the income, the end game scoring. It's just super fun, super variable. And I had literally never heard of it until Crook told us about it.
Major surprise. Yeah, Crook, shouts out to you for having an eye on it. I think backing it. I think it was a Kickstarter originally.
Yeah, really good.
It's such a good
game.
Holy
crap, it's good.
Such a massive, again, both of these games at the start of the list here were big surprises. Yes. Because we don't typically think like, I'm going to look into this new space game. I'm kind of like, I don't care until I hear more about it. And this one was
generic game in terms of its look, its theming. It looks very generic, and it's really not. It's great.
So good. Yeah. So
it's
give it a go.
That's number 9. Let's go ahead and get number 8. Number 8, we're expecting to like, and this is Wonderland's War.
Yes, this is a big old splashy game. Maybe the biggest, splashiest game. I don't know about in terms of just component quality, production value. Druid City Games does not mess around in that regard. Yeah. Wonderland's War is
maybe the best production like ever, more or less.
Yeah, I think so. That or Tidal Blaze. I think either way, it's going to Druid City. Pretty much. Wonderland's War is a game where you are bag building. You're building a bag of these like chips, which are your kind of followers, your warriors, essentially. And you are warring over Wonderland. Everything's getting a little bit crazy.
Crazier than usual. We need to put that caveat, because the whole point of Wonderland is everyone's insane.
Yeah, but the madness is finally getting to them. So you are going to be playing as Alice or the Mad Hatter or the Queen and things. This will be your leader, and you'll be acquiring these kind of followers, which will be the chips that you pull out as you go into battle over the kind of 5 regions in the game. So what's really cool is like the game is split up into 3 rounds with 2 distinct halves of each round. First is the Tea Party phase, where you're going around collecting cards, which will give you those chips, allow you to put followers out into the different areas of the board.
Preparing for the second half, basically.
Exactly, preparing for the second half, deciding like, I want to make sure that I can go for a battle in this area because maybe the scoring is really good in round 2 or whatever it is. In the second half, you're going to go kind of from area to area, and any players there will be pulling chips out of your bag, kind of like Quacks and Quedlinburg style. We're going to be pulling chips out of your bag. There are madness chips, which make you lose your followers. If ever all of your followers from that area get removed, you go bust.
You're done.
You're donezo. And you are trying to kind of just dominate these different areas. And you get to put castles out and stuff. And so it's just, kind of a push your luck, hedge your bets with what kind of chips you put in your bag, but ultimately you're pulling out random stuff and it may or may not go great.
Yeah, because you're building your own bag, and these followers, there's like 6 or 7 of them or something like that. But they all have different abilities.
Yeah.
So like when you pull this one does
thing
this.
might happen.
And then on top of that, each chip, kind of like Quack's Quedlinburg, where each chip has like 5 abilities. In this one, they have 4 different abilities. So each game, the same chip can have different abilities. You can like mix and match.
A little reference card that everyone has.
It gets like pretty nuts. Everyone has like special abilities that they can kind of unlock as you go. And then you have like quest cards. So sometimes you're like, oh no, I want to go over here and I want to get to this specific number. I'm not even trying to win.
Yep.
I'm just trying to get to the specific strength so I can fulfill this quest card. There's a lot going on in the game, and it's really, really fun with great production quality. You can get Wonderlandians, like like the Humpty Dumpty and stuff like that, like all these different Wonderlandians, and they will all have special abilities and minis that you'll put into there. They'll also be battling, and then when their chips get drawn out, if they have chips, something will happen. It's so cool. It's so variable. It's got such a good look. A little large, as most board games are nowadays, and especially Druid City games. As much as we love you, your games are large.
Games be taking up space.
But it's just fun. It's just straight up fun.
Super
There
fun.
are times where like it can be a bit frustrating because like you can just draw really badly, which has happened to me where I've had a couple games where I've been like, I did not have that much fun in this game because I just drew nothing but madness and died immediately. But that's push your luck, right? And so it's like the vast majority of the time, it's so much fun. It's just a blast. It really is.
It's really fun. I think having things like those quests really help. And I'd say like, don't sleep on those because they give you alternate goals. It's not just trying to win every single battle that you're in. And I think that can be really useful.
Yeah.
And then also you're trying to pair together getting certain things to get kind of like the back end of a quest.
Yeah.
And I think that can be really valuable. I think it's something that we haven't ever explored really
I've
fully
never
enough.
done-
Because of course you want to get your chips and pull and stuff. But I think that might be a way to kind of help with that. It's like, well, there's this alternate thing that I'm going for. So let me try to go for that. If I don't have, the best of luck or whatever it might be.
It's so much fun. It really is. It's
And
such a
again,
blast.
The production value is insane. So that's
Pretty
also
unrivaled,
great.
yeah. That's number 8, Wonderland's more. Let's go ahead and get number 7. Number 7, I guess, came to the States in 2023.
yeah.
And that's what we'll say. We're going off of when they were released anywhere, which is basically means we're going off the BGG number. Because number 7 is Dorfromantik, which did come out in 2022 in Europe.
Germany.
Yeah,
So
but not over here.
we
But
got
nonetheless,
access to it this year.
There's another game on here that just wasn't here yet, as far as we know, and so like that does happen sometimes, which is why we do these revised lists.
Yeah.
because sometimes they're just not here yet. So Dorfromantik, which is based off of the video game, although I maintain it's way more fun than the video game. I actually don't really like the video game that much.
I kind of like the board game better too.
Yeah, I like
I
it
don't
a
know
lot.
why the video game's not bad at all.
No.
But I really like the board game.
So the board game, this is kind of a Carcassonne where you are, on your turn, you're going to draw a face down a hex tile, and you're going to place it somewhere, building out the board as you go. And then you can match landscapes. You do not have to match landscapes, but you generally want to because there's like forests, there is like farmland, there's rivers, there's train tracks, and there's villages. Because you're also always going to have 3 of these task tiles out, and these task tiles are basically like, you need to make a forest, this forest 4 tiles big, which means there needs to be 4 tiles with forest on it, all connected there. And once you have 4, that task you would then have completed, and the next person on their turn, they'll draw a new task. And that's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to complete these tasks. And it's just really fun. You can't really lose in the game because like there's not like a win or lose. You basically just at the end of the game scored a certain amount of points. It's kind of like a beat your own score kind of game, which I usually don't like. But in this, it just works for some reason.
I just enjoy it because it's a casual game. I know some people have said before when we talk about this game, like, what's the point? And I'm like, just fun.
It's fun.
It's just fun.
It's fun, maybe.
And
Maybe
I like that this game is more about like exploring stuff and going for specific objectives. You might have, like we have, for example, a little heart we can place out on a tile. And if for every, you don't always have to match landscapes like you said, but if you do on this tile where you put your little heart, you get 1 point for every correct match you make, like grass to grass and stuff. And if you ever get all 6 sides perfectly matched, you get to unlock this thing, something we have not yet achieved.
No, we sure haven't.
So it's like, okay, well, I enjoy the aspect of like exploration, unlocking content as you go, which gives you the chance to go for a bigger and higher score. So for me, that's the driving factor in the game. It's like, sure, you're just trying to beat your own score, but you are literally at the start of the campaign experience.
There's a campaign to it, yeah.
You can maybe max out at like, I don't know, maybe 200 points.
Yeah, I
but
guess
the high scores on the little achievement sheet go up into the 400s.
Yeah.
But you need to have more tiles, more things to go for and score to be able to do that. So you are driven to unlock that material so that you can really feel that ramp up over time. But it's a completely casual, easy game to get into. So it's like, I love that mix of like, you can hop in and out of this game as a person with a toddler. That's very useful to be like, my wife's going to swap in for a couple turns. I'm going to swap out. We're going to do this. And it's just easy to play.
Real talk.
It's just very fun.
It's just fun.
And that's ultimately the point for any of this stuff,
and
is
relaxing.
fun.
It's a great end of the night game. It's relaxing. It's fun. It's just really, really good. It's just, and then there's just so much crosstalk because you're like, oh, we can put it here. Oh, should we build this one? It's just, there's so much good.
And there's legitimate strategy to like how you build out stuff to try to prepare for future tasks.
It's just, it won the Spiel des Jahres for a reason. It's insanely good. It's so much fun.
Super fun.
It's become one of our favorite games. We really enjoy playing it, especially kind of in a casual sense. It's just a blast.
Yep.
Done from Antique, the board game.
There is a 2-player version coming out where it is competitive, where you can win the game. So if that is for some reason a deal breaker for you,
I'm curious about it.
I'm curious about that.
I don't know if I need that, but I'm curious about it.
I mean, anytime it's a 2-player game, I'm gonna look into it.
I'm interested.
I think it'll be like a friendly competition kind of game.
But nonetheless, that's Done from Antique. Let's go ahead and do the next one. Number 6. Also has an insanely good production, and this is Paint the Roses. This is one of those games that, like, we will go 6 months, whatever, 9 months, whatever, not playing it, and I'm always like, oh yeah, I like Paint the Roses. And then I play it again and go, oh no,
it's so good.
This game is so good, it's stupid.
Yeah,
like
I recently played it a couple times, showing it to new people who hadn't played it before. And both times it's been that thing where, like, it's an easy game in terms of like what you're doing, but it's a little like,
it's a weird thing to wrap your head around.
Yeah, to wrap your head around, like, how does it work? And so I've had the pleasure of doing that, going through explaining the game, having people kind of be like, all right, I think I get it. And then they go into it and they're like, oh, that's so cool. And like they got into it and our friend got really into it. There's like these little reference things you can do to kind of cross off what's possible, what's not possible as you're making these guesses, and they got super into it. So super cool. In this game, you are, again in Wonderland, you are trying to complete the Queen's Garden, the Red Queen's Garden, before you get your head chopped off. And the Queen has basically told each player different kind of rules for how the garden should be. She wants, hedges that are shaped like clubs next to hedges that are shaped like diamonds. But you might have, the Queen told me they want red roses next to pink roses and things like that. And as you place out tiles, if the current tile that was placed makes any matches for your specific whim to any adjacent tiles, you get to put out cubes saying that, hey, this made 2 matches for me. And what's really cool is it might be my turn, but maybe I have a hunch of like what Nick's whim might be. I'm going to place this thing out, which makes a match for me. It makes a match for Nick. And so even though it's not Nick's turn, you're all contributing to kind of, what's going on. And then it opens up for that discussion because you have to make at least one guess of one person's whim every single turn. You can do more than one, but you have to do at least one, even if you don't have any information. So you're doing that. And every time you guess a whim correctly, you get to move your little gardeners forward. And that's cool because the Queen every turn is going to be moving around the edge of the track as well. Yeah. And the whole thing comes up to like, if the Queen reaches your gardeners, you're dead. You lose. So you have to stay ahead of them. You have to be...
you have to be doing it. You have to be making whims happen.
You have to be making guesses. You have to be pretty accurate and stuff. It just gives a lot of like fun, again, opportunity for the talk around the table, the discussion piece of like, well, they put this here.
Why did they put it here?
Yeah.
If it's yellow to yellow... They could have put it
over here. They could have made 2 matches.
Or so much of it. It's like, what didn't they take? Because they have a choice between like 5 tiles. It's like, but why wouldn't they have taken this one?
Yeah.
So there's and sometimes you're like, I just didn't see that one, or whatever. But like, so much of it is like, there's so much more depth to that strategy, depth to that crosstalk, and it's just so good. It's just, it goes over so well with people. It's got a great look. The art by Jackie Davis is like so good. The deluxe version, which is still very affordable for a deluxe version, it has like nice acrylic tiles. It's so good from top to bottom. This game is outstanding.
There's even like a bunch of, we have the, I can't remember if it's Escape the Garden. There's like a expansion with a bunch of modules that will change your game even further. You can have like Alice, the Cheshire Cat, the Jabberwock and stuff. Will change what you have to do. I think allies you can use. I don't even bother with that stuff.
We don't
because
either.
The base game is plenty fun enough.
Yeah.
But it's like, if we ever like master the base games, like, well, here's all this other content
Yeah.
to explore,
Yeah.
and it's in a nice, still contained package as well. So.
Yeah, it's so good. Paint the
It's
Roses is absolutely outstanding. It's number 6. Let's go ahead and get number 5.
I like beer and I like bread. I like to eat the stuff. I don't know. Beer and bread's number 5.
It's true.
I thought I was gonna like just like link into some sort of Oktoberfest
didn't
Oompa Oompa
happen.
song. It didn't happen. Beer and bread is number 5. It's a 2-player only game where
It's so
you
good.
are towns on the opposite sides of a river,
Yep.
and you're holding your kind of well, I guess say over several years, you're having your annual competitions of brewing and baking, and making breads and beers, and you are doing this through multi-use cards
Yep.
and card drafting. Typically, at least in every other round, you're drafting out your cards. So each card has 3 sections to it. The top is for harvest actions, where basically it'll give you ingredients which you can put in your storehouse.
Yeah.
The middle section will be a recipe for either bread or beer
Yep.
that you can brew or bake, and you have to turn in those resources. And the bottom half is an upgrade of some description, where it might give you end game points for something or other. It might give you the ability to hold extra stuff in your
Special
storehouse.
powers, kind of
all
thing,
sorts
yeah.
of things, yes, for the game. It also allows you to clear out your breweries and bakeries to make more stuff, because you have to keep that kind of nice and
Kinda
clean.
old bread in there.
Yeah.
Gross.
So it's really fun, because in the odd numbered rounds, you're kind of in like fruitful season, and what you're gonna be doing is playing a card, then passing your cards back and forth, like classic card drafting style, making use of those cards. And then any cards that you use for the harvest action specifically in the first round will go back into your hand. You'll fill up back to 5, and then the second round, or the even number rounds, I should say, you're kind of going back and forth taking actions, but you're not passing your cards back and forth anymore. So I really enjoy the aspect of, in the odd numbered rounds, what cards do I put down to my harvest,
You're setting
knowing I'm
yourself
going to
up.
pick those cards back
Yeah.
up. And that,
Ooh,
to
I want
me,
to brew this beer. I can't do it now. I don't have the stuff
don't want
need.
Nick to take this
I'm going
card.
to harvest this card because I know I'm going to get it back.
Exactly. And that's something like for me, like figured out, like that unlocked the game for me. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's how you strategize and guarantee you have the right ingredients for the opposite years. It's like, make sure you have
gotta
control
plan
of
ahead.
those cards. And in the odd numbered year, even numbered years, I should say, the kind of dry seasons, there are a couple of cards you can exchange with, but you pretty much have the hand you have.
More or less, yeah.
So you have to kind of make use of that. It's just one of those games that's like not super complicated.
No.
Again, each card can be used in 3 ways.
Relatively low rules, yeah.
But relatively low rules once you get into it, but with the ability to put those cards under your board for upgrades and all the types of things that can do, whether it be, again, in-game or end-game opportunities.
And then I don't know if you mentioned it, but at the end of the game, you score your lower of the 2.
Exactly. So as you make these beers and breads, they're worth money, essentially,
Yeah.
but only your lower score between those 2 things counts.
Yeah, so you can't do all beer and no bread because
No.
you're gonna have 0 points.
Then you're just an
So
alcoholic.
you gotta soak up that alcohol.
You gotta
So,
balance.
you
That's
gotta
just
bring it
about
up.
life right there.
So it's like you have to balance that. So there's also that you're like, oh man, I've brewed 2 beers. I've not made a bread yet. I need to start making some bread because I'm gonna. It's so good. It's just really good. 2 players only, nice small size. It's just a banger.
It's so good. Yeah, 2-player games, those heads-up experiences. I just like the theming of it and stuff. It's like, this friendly competition that's going on and on and on. We do have a playthrough on our channel you can check out for it. It's one of the better 2-player games I've played in a long time.
Real talk, though.
It's just really, really good.
Yeah. That is beer and bread, number 5. Let's go and get number 4. Number 4 is a shout out to all the people in our comment section who have been begging us to play this for a long time now. This is Revive.
Anytime we talked about anything 2022, any sort of
Even 2023.
anything
Have you
recent,
played Revive yet?
people said, have you played Revive? When are you going to play Revive? Have you played Revive?
It's very
we
good.
have now. It wasn't available to us. We didn't have access to it back in 2022. But we have played it now, and it is really great.
It's very good.
So
It is
I
very
appreciate y'all keeping us
You are
honest.
correct. We did like it.
You knew our taste. You knew that would be up our alley, and it really, really is.
Yeah, this is a game. Also, kind of another game like we're talking about with what were we talking about? Space Station Phoenix, where you have some asymmetry in the beginning, but you get more asymmetrical as you go because everyone is a faction. It's kind of like this post-apocalyptic. You're trying to kind of rebuild the world. It's a very, very common theme nowadays. It's like post-apocalyptic.
I wonder why it's on our brains.
I know, right? It's astonishing. But you're basically trying to like dig out this ice, find resources, find like kind of abandoned cities that you can put people in, things like that. But you have a faction, and your faction has an asymmetric ability. You also have like a little technology track that is unique to your faction. And then you also have your kind of main board. And throughout the game, you're going to be bumping up these resource tracks. There's like yellow, gray, and green. And then as you bump it up, you'll essentially unlock places to put machines. And those machines will essentially give you actions that you can do with energy. And then you put an energy on them, you can do those things. Those are going to either like boost actions you already have, allow you to do something cool, some kind of exchange. They essentially allow you to be cooler. So every single game, you're going to build out your stuff completely differently just based off of what's available.
Agreed. Yeah.
And then on your turn, you're going to be playing a card. Every card has a top and a bottom to it. And you can slide it on slide it with the top showing on top of your board, or on the bottom of your board, or on the side of your board if you have unlocked that one. So you're also trying to decide each card, like, ooh, what do I do with this card? Do I put it on the bottom? Do I put it on the top? You can boost those spots, so whenever you put something here, if it matches colors, you get extra. There's a lot going on, as you can see. When I read the rule book, I was just like, this is going to be very good. We're going to like this a lot because there's a ton of variability. There's a lot of great decisions. You can build out your stuff differently each time. It's just really, really good. And there's also like a little bit of a campaign to this one as well.
It's like a 5-game, I think, campaign that just unlocks material sort of, it's a way to kind of
there's like new factions and stuff. We haven't played any, we've only played the base game. We haven't played any of the campaign stuff.
I'm excited to go through that because it's like, and there's an expansion too if you want to explore that
Of course, right? Yeah, so it's very, very good. If you like big, heavy Euros, it's up there. It's good.
There's just a lot of ways to like work stuff and give you a lot of just ways to... There's just a lot of things that make you feel really in control of what you're doing and give you a lot of the chances to feel clever, which always is going to give us high marks. So that's Revive at number 4. Very good.
Number 3 is Village Rails.
Man, so
what
good.
a banger. I picked this up while I was in England, actually, when I picked this up because we couldn't find it here. And I was like, oh, I found it. I'm going to grab it and bring it back home.
Man,
this game is great. Such a small box, such big gameplay.
Surprising has been sort of the theme of like this list. It seems like there's a lot of games where we're like, wow.
I was just surprised at the size of this one.
The size of this one, again, which we've shown off many times, is a dinky little box like that.
Yeah.
And it gives you a game where you have 12 turns and you are trying to just kind of maximize those turns. And it's such an incredibly satisfying, on a resource level, fairly tight game experience, the puzzliness of this game, where you are building out these different train routes in a little 4x3 grid. So you have these little cards that show your little routes and things, and they're going to have different things on them. They might have, farms and stations and stuff like that. And as you add these train tracks, which are always going to have kind of things going crisscross through them, you're going to be working toward the edges of your little predestined 4x3 grid. And anytime one of your tracks reaches what would be the end of your grid, you're going to score that track.
The end of the flat earth.
Then it goes off the cliff. That's where all the rich people live, down there. Once you get to the edge of that, you hit the ice wall, you will then score that track immediately. And so you're kind of trying to, depending on what icons and things you put on your track, you're trying to build out cards and stuff that are going to make it the most valuable possible kind of route that you can. Again, there's like things like farms, which I'm pretty sure farms will want to have basically as many different land types as you can possible on that track. The more, the better.
It's tractors, but
Or tractors,
because farms one of the land types.
So the tractors, which work the farms. And there's other ones which might want to have a bunch of the same types and things like that.
Or different, or whatever,
So all sorts of stuff like this, and you're just trying to kind of maximize that and sort of like work out the timing of like when it's actually going to score. So if I can do something where it makes the track turn, and I can put another card before it reaches the edge, all the better, because I can maybe get more points out of that. And where it really comes down to, it's cool, is there's these kind of like tickets you can buy, which will give you additional goals, which you can then put onto a route when it scores.
Like for every forest on this route, you get 2 points or whatever it is.
So you can put up to 2 of those on a route when it scores. So it maybe gives you even more things to focus on. And then additionally, you also have these kind of passenger cards in your hand, which are going to be like the locals making requests. So they will also have like, I want a route to have this thing or these types of icons or whatever it might be. And they're going to give you money for that. Money's important because you're going to have basically access to like 4 or 5 cards, but like a Small World or a lot of other games, only the kind of oldest card, the card on the bottom, is free. If I want the 3rd card in the row, totally fine, I can take it, but I got to put $1 or 1 pound, I suppose, on each card that I skip over to take. And then, of course, if someone takes that card later, they get any money that's on that card. That's always something I really enjoy. It's just like, do you want that new card that just came out that's really good for you? Okay, pay for it.
Pay for it.
Or wait, but maybe someone takes it before you. Yeah. So it always creates interesting decisions.
It's also how you get those route cards.
Yes,
you pay $3 for those. So it's just like
you pay $3, then you can again skip over cards by paying $1 a piece.
It's just so good. It's just such a small little game. You will play 12 cards. You have to play a card every turn. So it's not like you just like wait for a good opportunity. You just got to go, and you're just making the best kind of grid that you possibly can. It's just so, and again, the box is this big. Each little player area is this big. It's just a very small package. So much gameplay. It's so darn good.
It really gets puzzly and thinky about how you build out each route. And then knowing, again, because each card has kind of a crisscross route, I'm placing this card, I'm working on this route that's maybe going this way, but I'm also working on one that's going this way. So is it working for both?
You're always working on 2 routes. Yeah, it's tough.
Fantastic.
It's super, super fun. That's Village Rails. We absolutely love it. Let's go and get number 2.
Play it right now.
Number 2 was I think we played this year. I think it was on our list last year. This is Woodcraft. And this was one of the first games we played this year. Woodcraft was a Vladimir Suki game that came out at Essen last year. Usually Vladimir Suki has this year's was Evacuation, has a new game every year.
Yep.
Vladimir Suki and Ross Arnold came out with this one. This is a game where you were maybe wood people. I don't know, you're like forest people.
It's unclear.
You're basically woodworkers, and you're not entirely sure if you're also made out of wood.
Or you're harvesting yourself.
Or who knows, right? But nonetheless, you're basically woodworkers, and you're trying to collect different kinds of wood. There's like kind of like cheaper green wood, there's like yellow wood, and then there's like really nice like mahogany brown wood. And these are all in forms of dice. And then you're using those dice along with maybe some glue, maybe some scraps, things like that, maybe some saws and stuff, to essentially fulfill contracts. You're trying to make this like rocking chair, and that's going to take like 2 green 2s, a yellow 4, 2 glue, and a scrap wood. And so you have to get those things, and then you can turn it in, and then now you've completed that contract, which will give you like income, certain things, bonuses and stuff. But the cool thing is, and this is one of those things that's like so much fun about this game, is if it says you need 2 green 2s, you need 2 green 2s.
You need specifically that amount.
You cannot give a green 4. No. That is not what it's asking for.
We need precision in our woodworking.
Exactly. We're not trying to make a crappy rocking chair. And so one thing you can do, though, is you have things like tools, and you have saws. And what you can do is you can take a die, and you can saw it into 2 pieces, and you can choose what values those pieces have. So if I had a 4 green, I could use a saw and saw it into 2 2s.
Yep.
And so much of it is like this interesting game where you're getting these dice, but then also mitigating those dice. You have scrap wood, and you can take scrap wood and kind of put it on there and increase the pip value because you made it a little bit bigger. It's just so weird and thematic, and it works so well.
I think that's the thing, is like there's so many games that do dice mitigation.
Yes.
I've never seen one that brings it in and does it thematically.
So thematically.
And here it is so well executed where, I mean, there's been things where you can split up dice and stuff, but I'm like, it's so fun because it's hilarious to me that you're like sawing this like piece of wood in half or whatever, or a 1 and a 3 or whatever you want it to be.
It makes sense, right?
It just makes sense. Yeah, I'm like, that's so cool.
It's a 6 value die. I can
get a lot of wood out of this.
I can make 6 pieces of wood out of this. They're not going to be very big. They're only going to be 1 pips. And the dice are all the same size, so it's not like that thematic, but it's just like, it makes sense. And then you're like, oh, you're adding scrap wood. That increases the pip value because that piece of wood is now bigger. It's like, it just makes sense.
Yeah, it's so satisfying, and it's a crunchy, thinky,
really
puzzle.
Good action selection. You have like 14 turns like you always do in Vladimir Suki games. Like,
so you feel under the gun immediately.
It's
but
so good.
The ability to use, in the last game that we played, you used your tools and stuff, the saws and stuff. So
I got a bunch of them,
well, you can really extract a lot of actions out of your just meager amount of turns.
I'm going to cut this die, and then I can take these 2 die and put them together like this, and you can just do a whole bunch of
crazy
weird crap.
stuff. Yeah, it's really, really cool. There's lots of upgrades you can get, a lot of things to focus on
there. Which give you a little bit of powers. So much good stuff.
Tons of stuff. It is so cool. The people are weird. Again, I don't know if they are
like, they don't
made of the forest.
Yeah, right. They're very interesting.
But I don't care because it's a great game.
The currency is blueberries.
That's all you need.
That's all you need to know.
Oh, it's so good.
It's so good. Woodcraft is number 2.
Points are acorns. Come on.
That's true. Let's get number 1.
Number 1 is a game where your points are also acorns.
I wish.
No, it's not. The points are points because it's a...
If only Garfield had the freaking stones.
To do a woodcraft theme. This is Wayfarers of the South Tigris.
It's very good though.
Arguably, I don't even know if it's really arguably. I think it's our favorite Garfield game to date.
It's my favorite at this point. Yes.
It's so good, man.
Yes.
It's so good. That's no disrespect to any of the rest of the Garfield games because
Maybe it is. Make better games,
of
Shen.
them. Wow. Just keep making more games because we love them so much.
Please do.
Wayfarers of the South Tigris is the first in the South Tigris trilogy. There's also now Scholars of the South Tigris, which, spoiler alert, made our 2023 list.
It might be my second favorite.
It's really good.
The South Tigris series has been very good.
Yeah, so the whole South Tigris trilogy is based around dice and ways to use dice. In this case, kind of like workers. There's also workers you can use and stuff. So it uses kind of a blend of that. And it's all for kind of knowledgeable pursuits.
Yeah.
We are exploring the land and skies and seas and ultimately trying to figure out like a point in period where they're trying to figure out like the circumference of the earth. We were trying to like learn and use like employ mathematics and astronomy for the kind of first time and charting all of this and like learning about who and where we are. So in this game you are ultimately building out a tableau of many cards off of your kind of center player board. You can build land cards to the left of your player board, sea cards to the right, and then above those cards will be another row of cards, which will be various celestial bodies like stars and planets, the moon and sun.
And it's showing like you start off in Baghdad, that's like your central spot, and you're basically like, oh, I'm charting a bunch of stuff out of the sea, about some bunch of stuff out of here, and it's super open.
Super open in what you do. The four kind of main types of cards are 2 for the land, 2 for the sea. On the land, there are cities, which will give you additional worker placement spots for your dice. I should say dice placement spots.
Yeah.
That will have you put down a certain value, which will pertain to your central board, which will have different icons. So you need like a camel. Okay, well, if I ever have any 5s, the way I've built out my central board, that gives me a camel. I can put this down and make use of those actions. There are also vistas, which are like passive incomes and bonuses you get for doing certain things. Like there might be a thing where like every time I get a star card, I get $1. It's things like that. And there's a whole bunch of those you can build out. On the sea, there are harbors, which again are places for you to do action spots using your dice. And then the kind of open sea cards are going to, the open waters are going to give you a one-time bonus and then a like rest action bonus potential, or I should say from your townsfolk.
Yeah.
So there's all those things you can do. The space cards give you scoring. There's townsfolks, which you can tuck under cards to give you ways to like mitigate and power up all the other cards you play. Again, it's a game where you can, it's almost hard to explain.
Yes, because it's so open.
Because there's so many things to kind of try.
Yeah.
And you can kind of try any blend of them and make it viable.
And just be like, I'm just not going to do water. I'm just going to do all land.
You
whatever.
can totally do that.
Like, it really is. It's a big sandbox game.
You want to find synergies ultimately. Combos and synergies between the types of cards you're collecting.
Yeah, and it's like, it's one of those games where it's like, it's a tough one to teach. Because of the fact that it's so open, it's not linear at all. You can just do kind of whatever you want, which is cool once you know, but it can be a tough teach where, say, Scholars, which I would consider to be like a heavier game, is more linear, so it's a little
kind
easier
of, you're going
to
to do this and this and that.
But Wayfarers is just so fun because every game I'm just like, I'm gonna get a bunch of open water cards, and I'm gonna try to get a bunch of townsfolk that tuck underneath them, so my rest actions are
super powered.
Nuts. And this time I'm gonna do a bunch of I'm gonna do some cities, I'm gonna do a bunch of vistas. So now like I'm just kind of comboing a bunch of stuff. I'm gonna get a bunch of star cards, and it's just like there's so much you can do in the game. Like it's just so insane.
Yeah,
how open it is, and it just makes it fun every single time.
I totally agree. I like it's just really fun to play around in the sandbox and explore. And especially to have the theming, I think is really cool. Again, it's all about like trying to learn, and the whole South Tigris trilogy is based around gaining knowledge. Scholars deals with like translating scrolls and stuff from distant lands into Arabic, because in Baghdad here, again, this was like a great period of growth.
Central place of information.
Yeah, and then the third one that's coming out next year will be Inventors of the South Tigris as well. So I just love that theme, like the idea of like, you know, the pursuit is of knowledge versus, you know, conquest and things, which is
why not, you know?
Which is a cool change. So Wayfarers of the South Tigris is just seems infinitely explorable. Like I can't ever see getting tired of this game. I can't see running out of like things to try in this game. Because there's so many cards, so many, you know, different avenues. And again, you're trying to find synergies and combos and things that work together, and there's just infinite ways to make that happen. Very, very cool. It's just number one. Like since the moment we played it, it was clearly like this is the game of the year for us.
Yeah, I mean it's our favorite Garfield game, which really says a lot.
Yeah,
and
we're fans in general.
Yeah, so nonetheless, that is number one. Wait for us to South Tigris, and that is our revised 2022 list. We had some stuff that was on last year, decent amount of new stuff, and so yeah, it's been fun to kind of look back, and it was as every year is nowadays. Some people disagree with this. Every year is great for games. This year was outstanding for games. Last year was really, really good for games.
Absolutely.
That is our top 10 games of the year. Put your top 10 from 2022 down in the comments below.
Shout out to our patrons scrolling by here. Please become a patron today. We'd really appreciate the support. We do supplemental top 10 lists and stuff. Most recently, we did a supplemental 20 games for our best of 2023 list. So do check that out. We also do Q&As and first looks, first impressions, things like that. So do check that out if you're inclined.
Indeed. And that's going to be it for us. We love you all so much, so much. Thank you so much for being here. We'll see you later. Bye, everybody. Bye.